Hi everyone. Gosh, it's really hard times, isn't it, with COVID? I live alone, so can you imagine? It's just awful. But anyway, I struggled what to think about calling today, and I want to call it failure is an option, because I'm coming from a student point of view, whereas a fail is not necessarily a fail if you have a brain injury. I was a journalist working in Sri Lanka. Just started doing my internship. I grew up in Australia when I was in a horrible car accident. And so I got rushed to hospital because I was living alone and nobody knew who I was. And so I just had brain surgery in the public hospital in Sri Lanka. Luckily, the guy that did my operation was really young. It was in the middle of the night. I was coming back from a nightclub and he hadn't passed his exams yet, but he was a great doctor. And so I still stay in touch with him today. Okay, so I had always wanted to study journalism. When I was really in my early 20s, I had a boyfriend who was a photojournalist, and he was in Rwanda and he went to Cambodia, and he's got 2 Walkleys and 5 War Press now. So that had a big influence on me. So I went to Berkeley University in San Francisco because I'd been living there, and it was really expensive. So when I came back here, I'm an Australian citizen and I grew up here. I went to UTS and I did get in the first time because I'm a good writer. And so, well, the other girl got in, she tried to get in 7 times. So it's pretty great to get in the first time. And so I still couldn't afford it. So I decided then to go to Sri Lanka. And I was working at the Sunday Times newspaper when I was in a horrible car accident. And so the next thing I knew, I woke up here 3 months later, had no idea where I was. But I was at the Royal Norwich Hospital for 4 weeks, and then at Kurabel, Royal Ride Rehab for like 3 months I spent there. But what I wanted to say to you, I had about 10 or 11 weeks of post-war amnesia, which is pretty huge, I think. But so what I wanted to do was to be a journalist. I'm glad I never asked anybody because I'm sure they would have said no way. I think when I left Kurabel, I was still in a wheelchair and had the shower chair at home and spent a little while with a catheter and all of that stuff. So I'm very cognizant of how it is for people and how people's opinions are. So anyway, I went back to university, but I thought what I'd do was to do the rest of my speech first in the photographs before I bore you with this law, which is my second master's. But as Jeff was saying, when I finished university, when I did my first master's, there was also this thing that you only get better for 5 years. And that's absolutely not true, because I did another master's after that. And so it's really, actually the second one was international law at this university. But it's kind of funny the way people think when you've got a brain injury, because I just scraped by all those classes except for national security law, which I did on critical infrastructure protection and legislation, with a comparison between the UK, the USA and Australian ASIO legislation post 9/11. And I got a distinction for that. So I just basically scraped through in everything else, but they knew I've got a brain injury. So I wonder what people's opinions are of people with brain injuries. So anyway, I want to do the rest of, this was my graduation at the Sydney University. And if you watch Foreign Correspondent, you'll notice that's Eric Campbell. He's a friend of mine, and he came, it was really nice of him. He came at like 9:30 in the morning for my graduation because he knew how difficult it really was for me, because I'd say at this university, I was in Phillip Street, not at this campus, but people have a very strange idea of what you can and can't do when you have a brain injury. Actually, you can do whatever you want to do, but you have to have the right supports. So I'm glad that they've got the NDIS now, because they didn't have it when I was at university. And so carry on. All right, so that's at UTS when I was a disability officer, and this is just a couple of years after my brain injury. And so I was always interested in photography because of my ex-boyfriend. And so what I did was I had a photo exhibition, and those were a lot of Paralympians and it was an exhibition about people with disabilities doing different things, not just being miserable at home. Continue. Okay, at the moment I'm working on a project in Canada. I like Canada. I've been there 4 times. I've made a film on Vancouver Baby, so if you Google my name, that film's on YouTube. And so this is looking at the way that we can use different apps for a mobile phone for people with brain injury by the University of Toronto, which I'm involved in. Okay, I've also written a children's book. It's called The Saddest Girl. It's about a little girl, her mother has a brain injury in a car accident. It's going to be launched Brain Injury Awareness Week. So, even though I'm a really great writer and one day I want to write an autobiography, I thought this would be a great way to learn how to write, and what better way than by doing. So that's why I wrote this book, but I also work with an illustrator. She's really brilliant, so it's got great illustrations. It's got a Facebook site, thesaddestgirl.com, so please follow it, and you get all the information about when it's released. Okay, so that's my first film on top was called Reinvention, and that's actually Scott. He's got a brain injury, and what it teaches you is people with brain injuries. Scott taught me how to use a camera. So I went to Newcastle. I never used a camera before. So Scott lent me his camera. He's got a pretty severe brain injury, but he actually taught me how to use it. And so everyone's got potential. You just have to find what someone's good at doing, and basically they can do whatever they like. The second thing was Vancouver Baby. So that was a disability, a big seminar in Vancouver, and so I dragged my tripod and my camera over there, and I don't recommend doing it when you're over a certain age because it's pretty heavy, and I don't want to do that anymore at all, which is why I'm writing. So go on. That's Appy Solutions. That's if you're a parent or somebody who's interested in brain injury, please follow Appy Solutions. They, this lady, Christy Swartz, they teach people technology about how to like say you want to get home and you want to. So you want to direct dial your mum and you want to tell her to get home. Or you want to go to a coffee shop and order a coffee. So she teaches in different ways. And at the moment she's making, what are those videos called? TikTok. Sorry. She's made a TikTok video on how to impart information. So it's really great. Christy's brilliant. So, okay, I wanted to tell you about the importance of doing exercise when you've got a brain injury. It was very difficult for me. The first gym I went to, I've gone for 20-something years all the time to gyms. So the first gym I went to was Unlimited Fitness. This girl has got a brain injury, Jeanette Rouse. It's at the Plus Fitness in the Blue Mountains, and actually I'm a local hero in the Blue Mountains area, so I get free membership at that gym, which is great. And so Jeanette joined because they wrote about me, And I was trying to get people around the Blue Mountains to exercise regularly, because exercise is a great way to clear your mind and to think clearly and to have confidence. So I've gone to about 6 gyms in the last 20 years. I went yesterday for about the 4th time this week. So I've kept up the gym all the time, and it really helps me. And so if people have got a brain injury, even though it's quite embarrassing to go to the gym when you're first starting, when I first started going to the gym, I couldn't even walk. So Michelle, the lady that was the manager at that gym, wrote something for me for my court case, which never went anywhere because it was in Sri Lanka. And I had to get help to walk in with my sister and my mother because I couldn't even walk. And so I used to go on the bike, and now I realise that the bike was on 0. So I couldn't even have it on 1. So I had it on 0. And then the guy that was sitting next to me talking all the time, I realised that he was just looking out for me, because I realised you pay those people, trainers, to do that. They don't just do it for free. So, okay, the next image I want to show you is the work I was doing for Able Movement. I was looking at the way that people with brain injury, people with all kinds of disabilities can access the beach and the surf. And so I was in Bondi in the morning. The next one, that's Ride. So that's a flotation thing that they go out, people can go out in the surf with. So, and they have beach mats as well, if you want to take a beach wheelchair down to the surf. And if you're a parent with a young child with a disability, in Bondi, there's a special kids training for swimming, and it's a really lovely way to be out and about. So I really recommend that. But my days of filmmaking are over because I can't carry that stuff anymore. It's too heavy for me. Okay, the last one is, I'm just trying to tell you how that what you study is not just used for academia. The last one is a friend of mine who's in the States, who is a very well-known musician, and he needed some legal advice, and so I went to, I can do a little research, I'm really good at doing that. So I came up with this legal theory, looking at, God, what's her name, that blonde girl that sings, Taylor Swift. Yeah, Taylor Swift. She's actually got new, she's made new masters. It sounds crazy, but what she's done is she's got out of her old recording contract by doing this new masters, and that's actually a great theory of a way to get out of a recording contract, which I came up with myself because I did reading. So this senior lawyer has said that he's really, it's a great theory that I've come up with. And so it's fun. Look, obviously he doesn't know I've got a brain injury, but that's what I mean. Anyone can do anything. You just need the right supports and sort of the confidence to go out there. Okay, and just what I wanted to finish on is this.
Tish, you've been living with a brain injury for more than 20 years now, following a car accident in Sri Lanka. What sort of things do you struggle with now?
I really have worked very hard to get my life back on track, because I didn't want to accept that they were going to put me to a nursing home. I want to get back on track, actually. I've written a screenplay about a soldier in Afghanistan with PTSD, and I've got 2 master's degrees.
Since the injury?
Yeah, yeah. It actually started off me remembering shopping lists and working on my memory, and so now that's what I've done.
Nanda, you're Tish's mum. How has this impacted your life?
It actually ruined my whole life. My life stopped on the day that it happened.
And Tish, what is it like for you now? What are the things that you find hardest now?
Hardest is I'm completely can't use my left side. Like I have problems. I'm left-handed, and so I can't write, which was a real pain because I did my degree in international law, and I couldn't write any notes. That was difficult.
Yeah.
And just a lot of things. My balance, no balance at all.
But I thought she's well enough, and she did 2 master's degrees after she came back from this situation, and one was in international law, and she hasn't got a job.
I'm making films, but
That's on her own. She's doing. Yeah.
she didn't see me getting up and getting on a train in the morning.
Yeah, but that she started.
This is an argument lots of people have anyway about,
Not just brain injured.
No, that's right. So you're making films and you feel you're working, but Mum doesn't. Okay. Paminta, we just heard about someone getting 2 master's degrees after a brain injury, and I wanted to ask you about neuroplasticity, which we hear a lot about, the brain's capacity to develop and to adapt. Does that play into recovery, and to what extent, can people develop skills afterwards, or?
Absolutely. I think, medicine traditionally had a concept that brain does not recover. Now, that actually has been turned on its head to some extent, that we know that the brain does have regenerative capacity. So what the brain does is, in terms of a particular lesion occurring or an injury occurring in a particular part of the brain, the circuits or the neuronal networks that are involved in that region try to recover, even though the brain cells may not recover. And then also the other networks in the brain may try to do the same function as this previous network, which has now been damaged.
So does that mean that the idea of how long you can keep improving is infinite, or does it mean...
I think there are limits, of course. And we know that we've seen, for example, Tish has been working very hard at her cognition. For example, she has gained a lot of her abilities, regained a lot of her abilities, but it probably doesn't come back to a previous level. So there is a lot of scope for improvement, but perhaps not an infinite.
Right. Well, I do have to disagree with what that man said, because yeah, I left school when I was in year 10, so I'm not academic, but I am now. I sound really academic, but I was very happy waitressing in the Cross. So I did this. I'm Sri Lankan. My mother is a Sri Lankan lady, so what can I say? Okay, thank you very much.